I would like to present a simple idea that is a revolution in electromobility called the hybrid connector. It's a simple, cheap, and reversible way to convert any diesel truck to electric on the highways and expressways. But before we talk about it, we need to focus on one important issue: batteries. Every year, they are getting cheaper, lighter, and more energy dense, but charging will always be a problem. Always. To charge a battery quickly, you need to supply as much energy as possible in the shortest possible time. This will never change. So you have probably all read about the super fast charging of new electric cars in a matter of minutes, just like filling up at the gas station. Well, there is just one small problem. This problem. To put it into perspective, this is the largest building in the world. Its peak electricity consumption is 30 megawatts. This is the tallest building in the world, whose peak consumption is 50 megawatts. That is total of 80 megawatts. So it is equivalent to charging 53 electric cars simultaneously using fast charging. Let that sink in. There's a very simple solution to this problem. To me, simplicity is beauty. The hybrid connector is a kind of adapter that fits between a truck and a trailer. A bit of steel, copper, cables, no rare earth minerals, and an electric motor at the rear. This allows for a quick, inexpensive, and reversible conversion of any combustion truck to electric drive on highways and expressways without any changes to the truck or trailer. But trucks are just the first step. Buses and cars are next. I will talk more about it in a moment. After entering the highway, at the special point called the electromobility center, we simply connect the connector, which has only one purpose: maintaining the entire vehicle speed at 80 or 90 kilometers an hour. The combustion engine in the truck remains running to ensure the operation of such systems like ABS, air conditioning, but all the driving force comes from the electric motor that powers the wheels in the connector. A simple control unit is attached to the driver's cab to regulate basic parameters. And when exiting the highway, we simply disconnect the connector and continue driving. Of course, a power source is needed. And there are two solutions. We can install a large battery on the connector, as an American startup called Revoy is doing. Or we can electrify the highway and draw electricity directly from the grid without the need for any batteries. I believe that it is always better to invest in infrastructure. Always. So the second option is expensive, but much better. And I will soon prove it. Of course, it has one obvious drawback. You have to build a catenary, which is expensive. Moreover, the Germans tried to do this near Frankfurt, and the project failed. Why? Well, there are two reasons. First, you have to throw away every diesel truck and buy new ones, which cost about 250,000 euros per unit. There are about 3 million semi-trucks in Europe alone. So if we multiply that, we get 750 billion. This is kind of expensive. Secondly, you have to electrify hundreds or even thousands of kilometers of such roads immediately, at once, right away. Because what's the point of using electricity only on a short distance? Buying a new electric truck would then be simply pointless. The connector solves this problem. It is simple to build. It is 10 times cheaper than an electric truck. It fits any truck, and it can be connected without any modifications or need for specialized equipment, and we have already tested this. Secondly, electrification can be carried out in stages. For example, in sections of 100 to 100 kilometers. Of course, the more and the faster, the better. But when the electric power runs out, we simply disconnect the connector and continue driving on diesel. And the advantages of the connector are enormous and can be divided into 4 groups: economic, ecological, social, and geostrategic. My calculations show that each kilometer driven electric saves at least 1 zloty, which is 25 cents. If you multiply this by the tens of thousands of kilometers the truck covers each year, the savings are enormous. All the data about this is contained in a several dozen-page book, which I will discuss at the end. Electricity and fuel prices vary from country to country, but driving on electricity will always be cheaper. Always. The connector's natural operating environment is nighttime. Then we have a surplus of electricity, and it's cheap. Every truck driver has to take breaks from work, and now they usually drive during the day and sleep at night. With diesel, it doesn't matter when you drive. With the connector, it's better to drive at night. This gives us another advantage. Tens of thousands of trucks that currently clog the roads during the day will be shifted to nighttime. There is no need for legal changes or enforcement. This is simply more cost-effective. In Poland, we have a surplus of around 10 gigawatts at night, which would allow us to power up to 100,000 trucks simultaneously. Another advantage. Negative electricity prices are becoming increasingly common in Europe, meaning that energy companies pay you to use electricity. Then, it's not only you drive for free, but you also make money. Another advantage is the stabilization of the electricity grid. The connector allows for double hybrid operation during the daytime, at nighttime as well. It's designed in such a way that the grid operator can switch off the electric drive from outside. When the electricity is scarce, the truck driver receives a message, switch to diesel power in 30 seconds. When demand drops, they receive another message, and they can switch back to electric power. The connector allows us to flatten the power consumption curve. Another advantage, when installing a charger for electric car on trucks, it needs to be connected to the grid. Often, this distance is several or even several dozen kilometers. In the case of the electrical grid for the connector, we connect the entire system at the most convenient location, the closest one, and the internal grid itself transmits the electricity. But trucks are just the beginning. We are building a network for them, for trucks such HGVs. In Poland, we call them tiers, because there are hundreds of thousands of them and they consume enormous amounts of energy. But once the network is ready, we can think about other vehicles. Let's go a bit futuristic and start with long-distance buses. I haven't seen such vehicles anywhere, but once you build the infrastructure, opportunity will quickly be seized. Special new versions of buses will begin to be built, equipped with a pantograph and a small battery, allowing them to travel 50 kilometers beyond the network. For example, to pick up passengers from the city centers. On the highway, such a bus not only uses electric current from the network, but also recharges its battery for the next exit. But the real power of this innovation appears when we add new old element, autonomy. This is nothing new, and many electric cars, like Teslas, have autopilot. The problem is that even the best of them can only see dozens of hundreds of meters ahead. This gives us 99.99% safety. This is not enough. And now imagine changing the rules for the entire system. It is not the car that drives on the road. It is the road that drives the car. Imagine adding interconnected cameras to the poles carrying the electric cables, observing the entire route. Data is transmitted to a central server that monitors every vehicle, whether combustion power or electric, autonomous or not. We see not just a few hundred meters, but several hundred kilometers. The entire route, whatever happens, whether there's an accident or a wild animal running onto the road, we know about it within seconds. And a special algorithm, supported by artificial intelligence and human supervision, makes decisions. We slow down or even stop all the autonomous vehicles and send a warning to the others. We see everything. The total control gives us complete freedom and safety. Not 99.99%, but 100%. When we reach electromobility point with a truck, we attach not only the hybrid connector, but also something I call the autonomous module. A second electric motor, wheels, cameras, and control devices that enable autonomous driving. However, the main task is to execute commands received from the central system: speed, braking, lane changes, and so on. Outside control using encrypted data. In that case, after reaching the electromobility center, the driver returns to the base and the truck continues its journey, for example, from Rzeszów to Madrid, without a driver, without stops, without diesel, using electricity the entire time. And once it reaches its destination, another driver with a tractor unit is waiting, disconnects the connector, and continues driving. And I don't think I need to explain the benefits of this solution. Let me repeat this. This is not the vehicle that drives on the road. It's the road that drives the vehicle. Finally, cars. The model, make, age, or drive type doesn't matter. On the highway, we connect the car to a special version of the connector, and I don't have a cool name for it yet, and the system drives it. We can stay in the car, read a newspaper or watch TV, or we can go out to a special room where we can lie down on a bed, have a coffee, a dinner, or take a shower. And this is not science fiction. If we have autonomous electric cars, such as Teslas, why can't we just extract the hardware and software from them and create a complete system that is reliable and safe? And now, if you want to go somewhere, you don't have to rent a car. You can drive your own car, but without getting tired. And if you have an electric car, you can even charge it while driving. You leave the highway after 1,000 kilometers, and the battery is 100% full. How cool is that? And you don't have to buy anything. Once we create the infrastructure, hundreds of companies will quickly emerge, simply providing transportation services at a low cost. Now the main part. The connector is cheap, but of course the biggest challenge is road electrification. And this can be done in two ways. The state finances the construction of the power grid, and private companies provide connectors, connector rentals, and other services. This gives us the lowest prices and competition between companies. If the state is not interested or doesn't have money, a group of large investors signs an agreement, for example, with the Polish state and receives a monopoly. Initially, they have to spend a fortune, but then later, they earn a fortune every single year without any competition. They just have to keep prices slightly lower than diesel. I hope you have many questions, and if you want to know more, I encourage you to read a 40-page book which describes every detail. This is a very simple idea based on a technology developed more than 100 years ago. The creation of the entire system will save us millions of liters of petrol and diesel fuel and drastically reduce air pollution and greenhouse emissions. Let me give you an example. In Poland imports 70 billion zlotys worth of crude oil and fuels every year. If we electrify all highways and expressways, and the vast majority of vehicles use hybrid connectors and friends, we could save up to 10 to 20% of this amount. Imports could fall by that much. This means that the entire investment in electrification would pay for itself within 3 to 5 years. We are fighting a losing war with China over the future of transportation. China holds a dominant position in electric car production and has total control over the battery market. Is it doing just solely for profit, or will China use this position to impose its worldview in a decade or two, leaving us no choice but to agree? Will there ever be a day when we look back with a smile on the blackmail of OPEC and Russia, because the situation has become even worse?